primero en español y luego en inglés. Mi nombre es Carol Tatiana y junto con Eva, quienes pronombres son ella de Somos Sur, estaremos interpretando en inglés y español durante la sesión de hoy. Primero que nada, queremos agradecer a los organizadores de este evento por su compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje y al crear espacios multilingües. La justicia del lenguaje incluye poder comunicarse, hablar, entender y ser entendidos en el idioma en el que nos sintamos más cómodos. Reconocemos que no pueden estar presentes todos nuestros idiomas a diferentes causas del desplazamiento y los efectos continuos de la colonización. Honramos estos idiomas nativos, incluyendo lenguajes de señas, dándoles ese espacio y reconociendo que todos estamos en las tierras robadas, no concedidas de las naciones nativas. Estaremos usando la terminación E en vez de la tradicional A u O. Por ejemplo, cuando dijimos nosotros o bienvenidos al inicio. No es un error de pronunciación, sino un esfuerzo intencional de crear espacios inclusivos y evitar hacer asunciones con relación al género. La justicia del lenguaje nos necesita a todos. Para todos presentes pueden ayudar hablando a ritmo moderado, voz alta y claramente. Si necesitamos que hablen más despacio, más fuerte, les dejaremos saber a través del chat. Por favor, no sufran en silencio. Si tienen problemas, déjenos saber a través del chat. En un momento encenderán la función de interpretación. Para acceder por computadora, verán un globo en la parte baja de sus pantallas con un mensaje sobre la interpretación de idiomas. Hagan clic en el globo y elijan el idioma en el que les gustaría participar, escuchar durante esta sesión. Por favor, escojan un idioma aun si eres bilingüe. Poner en mudo el audio original para escuchar la interpretación claramente. Para acceder por tablet o celular, puede hacer clic en los tres puntos en la esquina derecha de la parte baja de su pantalla. Elija Interpretación de idiomas y después seleccione su idioma. Asegúrese de poner mudo en el audio original y hacer clic en Finalizado para encender la función. Hi, my name is Carol Tatiana, and along with Eva, whose pronouns are she, her, from Somos Sur, will be interpreting in English and Spanish during today's session. First of all, we'd like to thank the organizers of this event for their commitment to language justice and to creating multilingual spaces. Language justice includes being able to communicate, speak, understand, and be understood in the language in which we feel most comfortable. We recognize that not all of our languages can be present due to different causes of displacement and the ongoing effects of colonization. We honor these native languages, including sign languages, giving them the space and recognizing that we are all on the stolen and unceded lands of native nations. Language justice takes all of us. For everyone present today, you can help by speaking at a moderate pace, loudly and clearly. If we need you to speak more slowly or loudly, we'll let you know through the chat. Please don't suffer in silence. If you have a problem, let us know through the chat. In a moment, the interpretation function will be turned on. During today's session, we will be using as much gender-inclusive language as possible, both in English and Spanish. To access interpretation via computer, you'll see a globe in the lower part of your screen with a message about language interpretation. Click on the globe and select the language in which you'd like to participate and listen during the session. Please mute the original audio to hear the interpretation clearly. To access via tablet, you can click on the three dots and select Language Interpretation, then choose your language, mute the original audio, and hit Done to turn the function on. Thank you. We can test the function now. Gracias, ya podemos probar la función.
Okay. Okay, 1 second. Hopefully that's just getting Eva in, and then now Carol. Give me 1 second, folks. English, Spanish, English, Spanish. Eva Cárdenas, Carol Tatiana. Hopefully that did it. Did that get it? Okay, for you, Eva. Carol, did that do it?
Yeah, that did it.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, well, I'm gonna move ahead then. Y'all let me know if there's any problem there. So we're gonna go ahead. So now that we are recording and you have an option to use the English or Spanish button below and the little sort of globe icon. So my name is Leone Jose Bicchieri. I'm Executive Director of Working Family Solidarity. We appreciate you being with us tonight for our teach-in on our message to the mayor campaign that my colleague Kevin Johnson is going to be talking about, and also about the Citywide Equitable Development Roundtable, which we're a very proud member of, a great coalition. And Chris White of the Alliance of the Southeast, who's also helping to convene CEDR, the Citywide Equitable Development Roundtable. We're going to have both of them talk for a little bit. And then after that, we're going to have some reaction comments from a couple of other participants, from Tamika Gavin, from Marvin Lopez, possibly from someone else who might be able to join us. We appreciate you being here. And our concern at Working Family Solidarity, our mission is to unite low-income working families. Yes.
The interpreter asked, could you please slow down just a little bit?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
problem.
Kevin. So our mission at Working Family Solidarity is to unite low-income and moderate-income working families, especially African-American and Latinx families, to fight together for equitable development. And that sounds like a equitable development. What's that? It's essentially when the city, the county, the state, the federal government, and or really wealthy private folks decide to build something in our neighborhoods, decide to do something with an empty lot, decide to put up a big factory or not, and the effect that that has on us. So we focus mainly on the area of worker rights and jobs, and then housing rights and affordable housing for the same low and moderate income families of color who are fighting just to survive. So we're concerned about the city's new development plan. We're going to hear from Kevin and Chris, and then from other folks. You all who are in the chat, please fire away, because at the end of the webinar, as many of you know, that chat is automatically saved, and we use that. We never use it and put people's names. We might put your initials, but we never just go ahead and do it, put your names. But we will say, for example, here's a report. Here's an idea of what people had to say. Things, you know, I never even heard of this plan, or whatever you want to say. And then I'll do the best I can in the time we have as moderator to let Kevin and Chris know about your comments and questions. They'll be able to read them. We'll answer as many as we can, but then we also want to have Marvin and Tamika be able to respond as well, as community residents, as Chicagoans who are concerned about this plan. So this is a very important plan. The city is redoing its master land use plan for the first time in over 50 years. Lots of people don't know about it. And the city says they're not going to accept feedback on it for much longer, which we think is a real crime. So we're trying to get people to come together to say something about that. And for us, especially in the area of good jobs in our communities and housing, but there's so many other things that we need to talk about. So we are going to go ahead and get started with my colleague, with our community organizer here at Working Family Solidarity, Kevin Johnson, and he's going to talk about our campaign called Message to the Mayor. And then we're not going to take questions. We're going to go then to Chris. After all of that, Marvin and Tamika will have a couple comments back towards Chris and or Kevin, and then we'll have them discuss a bit as I moderate, and we will be looking at your questions and comments in the chat, and we'll integrate as much as we can till we need to end at 7:30. Kevin, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Okay, go ahead, Ava. I thought I saw you unmute yourself. Okay, how you doing, everybody? My name is Kevin Johnson. I am a community organizer with Working Family Solidarity. I've been working with Leone and specifically with this campaign for about the last month and a half. Today, we are going to discuss a few things. Me and Chris White from ASC Southeast, and he will be coming on very shortly afterward. He's a very good man with a lot of very great things to say, as well as a great organizer in his own renowned right, with the Citywide Roundtable, Citywide Equitable Roundtable. as well as other organizations. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a quick PowerPoint. That I would like to share with everyone. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Share screen and yes, here we go. Share. Okay. All right, everyone. So, like I said, my name is Kevin Johnson. I'm a community organizer with Working Family Solidarity. And today our teaching is centralized around message to the mayor. Specifically, more for me, it is a message to the mayor and Working Family Solidarity, the message to the mayor campaign, which also will include a little bit more details as I go. So what this project is the city's development plan. New development plan that they are drafting up for the first time since 1966. So I actually, I think I might have flipped my slides. I'm gonna go here and then go backwards. So what the We Will Development Project Plan is. So on July 14th, Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced Chicago's first ever citywide plan drafted by neighborhood residents and community leaders as a 10-year framework to enhance citywide equity and resilience. The draft We Will Chicago plan includes approximately 40 goals and 150 objectives to improve Chicagoans' lives, especially individuals impacted by inequities in health, economic stability, neighborhood livability, and other systematic issues. So to summarize that up just a little bit more, because this paragraph here is directly from their We Will website. So just to summarize that up for a few people that don't know what I'm talking about. So approximately in 1960s, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Approximately in 1966, the city's first ever citywide plan of this type, it was called originally the comprehensive plan. Okay, so within this plan is a master usage / zoning plan that pretty much states everything that's going to be happening for the next 5 to 10 year frame in the city of Chicago, including infrastructure, economic development, and et cetera. And I'll go into that more in a little bit of detail. So as you see, I say here in my PowerPoint, they use words like equity and resilience. That's two of their main words that they use throughout the entire drafting plan to make us believe that they want to truly have change in our communities. The main problem, which Chris will also touch on as well with this problem, is not only that our average citizens and community members do not know about this new development plan. The also main problem is the allotted time of feedback that they're giving us, and the feedback that they have been giving, which is, if you take a look at their website, which I'll give you the link in a moment. If you take a look at their website, the allotted amount of time that they have for feedback was originally September 1st. The timeline has now since been pushed back to November 1st. And for the last 2 years, as they have been saying, they have been meeting with community members, organizers, as well as other organizations coming together to draft up these policy changes that were supposed to be included inside of this plan. The problem with that is, out of the 600 policies that were drafted by these community members, organizations, and et cetera, there's not very many, if any, included inside of this We Will plan that they have now since drafted and are asking for feedback. So I see your hand raised, Kevin. Just give me a few moments. So as we continue, the We Will plan is a framework plan for the city's future. The main pillars of the plan are arts and culture, civic and community engagement, economic development, environment, climate and energy, housing and neighborhoods, lifelong learning, public health and safety, transportation, and infrastructure. So those are the 9 pillars, I believe. Yes. I'm sorry, 8. Those are the 8 pillars that that they include directly inside of their We Will plan. They also state on their website that the best course of action to be able to have a say-so in this plan and in this process is to read the draft plan, share comments on the We Will website and in social media. And then also they had originally an email where you were allowed to send an email feedback. They have since changed it to a survey. You now take the survey that's directly, as you see as on the PowerPoint, that's directly on the We Will website, and or they have it available, as they say, at Chicago Public Libraries. And then the second thing and most important thing is to participate in meetings like this teach-in today, to be able to gain the knowledge of these things to share with others, as well as to use for yourself. Now I'm going to go back to the first slide. So the deadline, like I said, for this campaign was November 1st. Is November 1st, but our campaign specifically will be pushing all the way through midterm and final term elections in February. Our recent progress has been really great. Over the last 2.5 weeks, we've allocated about 25 videos or clips specifically for our message to the mayor campaign, which I'll explain finally in a little bit more details. And as you guys also see on the PowerPoint, our first clips of citizens having feedback towards our mayor will be posted on our website at workingfamilysolidarity.org sometime next week. So also, as everyone can see, our biggest ask here, which I'll go a little bit more into detail finally, is supporting. Not only just supporting with, like I said, having the conversation with you, with each other, and then having the conversation with your peers, but also supported by possibly introducing yourself into our project with our video clips, which I'll explain now. So, whoa, I'm sorry. I'm just getting this computer and I'm already pressing a few extra buttons, I see. My apologies. So our message to the mayor clips and a little bit more details about our campaign specifically. So what I'm doing is 30 to 60-second clips. I don't know why I got a long clips. That's actually very short. 30 to 60-second clips on feedback directly to the mayor. And with this feedback, what we will be doing is we will be posting it on our website in rotational pieces, as allowing everyone to be able to see themselves eventually over time, as well as having a video montage that will be directly sent to City Hall, as well as on YouTube and on Working Families YouTube page, which we will have a email in our weekly newsletter that we send out with more information on how to find those videos once they are ready and up and posted. So what we're doing is, and what I have been doing for the last few weeks, and what I will be doing for the next few weeks and probably the next couple of months, is I'm finding different community members, different activists, different everyday people that have a say and normally don't get a chance to be able to speak for themselves. What we're doing is I'm going around, and like I said, I'm getting 30 to 60-second clips, and I'm allowing you to give yourself a safe space to be able to talk to the mayor in a relatable way that you feel comfortable to yourself. So, for example, for the most part, most of our videos start off with, "Hi, my name is, my community I live in is, and my message to the mayor." And that's normally the original prompt we start with. So, for example, it would be, "Hi, my name is Kevin Johnson. I live in Auburn Gresham, and my message to the mayor is," and then so forth. And like I said, as you guys can see here as well, we're really just looking for general feedback on concerns on jobs, housing, violence, lack of youth spaces, and anything else that may be affecting you in your everyday life. There is no right or wrong answer we're just looking for community support and community engagement. And for people that want to volunteer to be able to meet with us, to be able to possibly talk a little bit more in details about the plan, as well as maybe possibly record a video for us for our message to the mayor project. And finally, because I think my time is coming up, and I just wanted to leave my contact information here. So my email is my first name, Kevin, last initial J at workingfamilysolidarity.org. My telephone number is 312-686-7136. And like I said, please just text or call with either your name, or if you come from another organization, like I know a few of us here may have, please call or text with the name of your organization. And I'm normally always around my phone and very quick to respond, so I'll be sure to get right back to you. Also, if you just so happen don't be able to take down this information right now, please, by all means, if you feel as if you may want to leave us a 30 to 60-second clip, and you may have something you want to say to the mayor, like I said, in terms of jobs, housing, violence, lack of youth spaces, and etc., please drop your contact information, email, or phone number in the chat. I'll be sure to be checking it throughout the entirety of the rest of the teaching and taking down information. I would love to be able to contact, meet you guys, create a relationship, one, and then also be able to get you on video and or audio, whichever more is comfortable for you, English or Spanish, by the way, and we'll be able to hopefully make an impact with this campaign we're pushing. So I do not want to take up too much more time. I just want to reiterate, like I said, if you want, drop your contact information in the chat. I'll be sure to be taking it down and contacting you as early as today or tomorrow about maybe possibly meeting, as well as my contact information is here, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me by either forms. I check them daily. So thank you very much. Now, I believe Leona is going to have a quick little saying, and then it's going to be a very wonderful gentleman I had the pleasure of meeting about a week ago by the name of Chris White, like I said, with ASC organization. And he has a lot of great information about the We Will project, and furthermore information about some things his organization is pushing in terms of this as well. So I would like to leave the floor to them. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope to be able to speak with hopefully all of you in the coming days in more detail about this plan, and also maybe getting some video. So thank you again, and we'll be back for questions soon.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. And Kevin Ansures, I think you have your hand raised. I sent you, I don't know if I was able to reach you. I sent you a couple quick direct messages. Just, we can take it. We'll take your question, but we're going to wait until the end. I just want to make sure that Kevin can talk, and then Chris, because sometimes what we've learned is questions or comments end up kind of getting answered or talked about by the next person. And so we don't like kind of focus just on one person and then kind of the other one comes later. But Kevin, we can return to you as soon as Chris has a few things to say. So, and in the meantime, please put stuff in the chat at any time, because once Chris is done, then we'll have Marvin say a few comments, Tamika say a few comments, and then we'll be checking any comment from the chat, and I'll go ahead and read them, and then put them back to let one of the folks here, Chris, Kevin especially, but also if Marvin or Tamika want to talk about it. So please put your question or comment at any time in the chat. It stays in there, and we'll be able to get it. One thing I want to shout out is that Yvonne Hall, I know her well enough to just say Yvonne, but she has put in there, and which is really cool. And thank you so much that, yes, I'll do a video, I'll talk, I'll do anything else you need. And she also said, I can get a few other people if you need as well. And so really appreciate it. That's exactly what we need. And we really want to push City Hall to take us seriously. How can you go ahead and institute the first master land use plan for the city of Chicago that will affect 10 or 20 years when very few people know about this? I think one of the main things Kevin's been telling me is almost none of the people he's talked to, and he's talked to tons of people the last couple of weeks, have ever heard of this, much less that there's already a 148-page draft plan, right, in 8 sections. So we really need people to get involved. We're not taking November 1st as our deadline. The city says they won't take feedback after November 1st. I mean, I'm just gonna be straight. That's BS. That's an artificial, they won't, but we're still gonna give it. So starting November 2nd, we plan to continue as hard as we can to let them know. And in the elections in November and in the elections in February, let the mayoral candidates, let the alders in your areas, right, know that you don't appreciate having the mayor put on the Department of Planning and Development. And these are their words. This has been a community-driven process. This has been a community-driven process that you in the community don't know about. How's that for a process? So please, we don't want to do your thinking for you. Please, please look into this, get in contact with Kevin, and let's move forward together. We're doing what we can at Working Family Solidarity. A lot of other great groups and individuals are doing what they can. We're very proud to be a member of the coalition called Citywide Equity Development Roundtable. And that has been chaired by none other than Chris White, whom we have with us tonight. And Chris is the organizing director of the Alliance of the Southeast, with whom we are also working and have for some years in solidarity. Chris has been doing what I'm often doing with my 5 and 8-year-olds, and he's been running around with his family trying to get them to all kinds of appointments, and he's still managed to be with us this evening. Chris, you take it away, and I am ready to help you put up your presentation. You just tell me when to turn the pages, and I'll get it up here in a second, okay? Please take it away.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I am the organizing director for Alliance of the Southeast, which is a lot like Working Family Solidarity. We are a diverse group of people from a majority Black and brown neighborhood, and we fight for equitable development, just like Working Family Solidarity.
Chris, we have you, but we are seeing a kind of a frozen screen. Sorry, we see you again.
Okay, is that better? But if you can hear me, I'm not much to look at anyways.
Well, look, you're going to be about this big in a minute when I put up your slideshow. So go ahead.
That's good. So we are very excited about Kevin's campaign because we are very frustrated by the city planning process. We came in good faith. We had big, robust meetings with our leaders, and we gave the city our ideas. Guess how many of our ideas are clearly in the plan? 0, right? In fact, groups like Working Family Solidarity and a lot of other groups from all over, they gave their ideas. There were 600 policy ideas. They put none of them in. So Kevin mentioned the city survey. The city survey will say something like, do you support helping Chicago's babies? Right? Do you strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree? But what are you going to do for the babies? Where are the babies going to live? What are the babies going to eat? Who is going to give them health care? There's nothing. So we're very frustrated. So we encourage you to call Kevin and make a video with him, because we're tired of sending them statements and sending them public comments and having no response. And we think this could break through that. So like I said, though, maybe put the slides up. If you could just skip to the slide with the, I'm going to speak pretty fast because I mostly want to hear from the other panelists. So we're ASE. Like I said, we're very similar to Working Family Solidarity, a little farther south and a little farther east. And the big thing we have in our neighborhood in the Southeast is the old US steel mill site, which is environmental. So this is the size of the loop. and nothing gets built on it because it's too polluted to build on. And we talk about, what are you going to do with this? A lot like the 78 by you, right? Is this going to be something that helps the community or gets rid of the community? Is it going to help us or hurt us? That's what we do more than anything. And much like Working Family Solidarity did by inviting me here, and much like you were doing by being here, we realized two important things. One is we realize that we are not alone. If you give me the next slide. We are not alone, and we cannot act alone. Even if we're fighting about something in one neighborhood, we got to find the other people fighting in the other neighborhoods. And also that a lack of equity hurts all of us. Now, could people say in the chat, if you've heard this word equity tossed around by people who do not say what it means? Has anybody had that experience? Well, I have that experience. So I know what it means to me. So it means three things to me. So first of all, it mostly means this first graphic. If you could show the next slide. So these are three people trying to watch a baseball game, but there's a fence. And in the first graphic, they have the same, they receive the same box, they receive the same support, they receive the same help, but because they don't start in the same place, they don't have an equal outcome, right? And then in the second one, they get different amounts of support and help, but they get an equal outcome because it's an equitable distribution of resources. And in the last one, we have deep structural change. So instead of trying to give out stuff so we can see over the fence, let's just get rid of the fence. So, you know, that would be a bigger change, a deeper change. And that's what we mean by equity. I'm not going to go to the next slide. Could I skip to 2 slides? I also used to work with this guy named John Powell, and he talks about that we live in an era where there is a segregation of opportunity. So the example he gives is he's an African-American man and his kids are African-American, but he grew up in Detroit. And the environment he grew up in Detroit, because of the poverty, because of the number of people that went to jail, because of a lot of things, he was successful, but he ran up the down escalator, right? And that his kids are in an area where there's it's a very different scene going on. The statistics are much better, and his kids are allowed to just easily go up the up escalator. So to work on equity, we've been working with Working Family Solidarity to convene something we call the Citywide Equitable Development Roundtable. If you could put the next one. So we met before the pandemic and then we stopped, and then I got involved and we've been growing. But we need you. We need the leader of your organization. We also need members of your organization. We really like it when an emerging leader comes to our meetings and has never been like a meeting there before. And we are available to explain what happened in the meeting if it's not clear. In the roundtable, we've been doing a lot of, we didn't have the idea of video, but we've been writing lots of statements together about the plan, and we're gonna send them, but it's not very satisfying. We have felt stuck in a sandbox. So we have started, while we are still making comments about the plan, and we are going to send lots of people to make videos with Kevin, we are also going to look at the elections. And so what we're going to do now, many of us are what is called a C3 organization. That means that we are not allowed and do not really want to endorse this candidate or the other candidate. So right now I'm at work. I cannot say who I want you to vote for. And I don't want to say who for you to vote for. But what I can do is I can say, these are things we can think about when we vote. Right? We can set the agenda of the election without saying who to vote for. So if I could see the next slide. So we are writing, and we're still finalizing it, a candidate questionnaire. So we are allowed to go to every candidate in a race. So we're going to start with the mayoral race. You are allowed, if you want to send, for example, if you're an award and you want to send the questionnaire to all the candidates for alderman in your ward, please do. It just has to go to all the candidates in any race. But we are going to take the issues that we thought of during the planning process and make the election about them. And I want to go briefly, this is not final, I want to go briefly what those are. If I'd have the next slide. One is just equity at all, right? Are you going to prioritize communities that got left behind when you give out resources? That's pretty simple. The second one is decision making. So we've seen lots of examples of bad decision making, including the planning process. And right now, or earlier this week, there was a meeting about a warehouse at 43rd and Cicero, but it was very hard to get into that meeting, right? We've seen lots of examples of bad decision making. We want there to be a basic minimum standard of decision making, of involving the community in decision making. If I see the next one. Jobs. We think the city likes to blame employers, but the city has a big role in jobs. Most jobs have some kind of city present or subsidy or giveaway attached to them, and they could require more. A lot of jobs in Chicago, I'm just going to say it, are racist, right? They will pick one group and pay them very little. They will not let another group come at all. I used to work at a place where they would switch groups, right? So there was a Colombian manager that victimized Colombian workers. Then there was a Polish manager that victimized Polish workers. Then there was a Chinese manager who victimized Polish workers. And then there was a Russian manager, and then a Vietnamese manager, and then a Mexican manager. And every time they did that, they would rip one group off and cut the overtime for the other. And they got together and they fought back against that. And no group benefited from that system. Everybody lost. And the city needs to recognize that system exists. And when they give money to a factory, to a movie theater, to a movie studio, to any job, they need to take stands about that. The next slide, I'm going to try to go a little faster. Housing. We need, there's a lot of things with housing. We need to fix CHA. We need to replace and expand the income-based housing. We need to make sure that when they renovate housing, people do not just get put on the street. And
Chris,
yep.
Carol asked, could you slow down just a little bit?
Okay, sure. So we have a lot of things about housing. If we go to number 5. The other thing about housing is displacement. So displacement takes 2 forms. So there's parts of the city that have so much pollution and so much crime and so much bad housing that it's almost impossible to live there. And people leave. They vote with their feet and they leave. Then Many of you in Pilsen are familiar with this. There are neighborhoods that people fought to keep livable, but now everybody wants to live there. And the prices are going where? They're going up. So we want to do something. We want them to recognize that and do something about it. Not say have a goal, but have a plan. Next slide, please. I might have duplicated a slide. Next slide. Last one is public safety. Now, a lot of people in our coalition have different ideas about the police. And we do not argue about the police, the role of the police. But we do agree about something. We agree that we need more public safety. We need less violence. And we agree that there are things, common sense things that we all agree on that the city can do to increase public safety. For example, and they could do a lot more of it. Next slide, please. We have a lot of concerns about the environment. We want not a goal, but a plan to clean up the environment, especially in areas like the Southeast, where there are so many industries that pollute. What we say in the Southeast, we get all the pollution and none of the jobs, right? All the jobs that pollute the Southeast neighborhoods, but they do not, but very few people from the Southeast get to work there. And we want them to break that up. If I could have the next slide. We, like many people, are waiting on the bus most of our lives these days, and that needs to stop. So that's number one thing. We're part of a lot of campaigns, but number one, that needs to stop. We also need transit to be safer. Next slide, please. And the utilities. So we need to get the lead out of our drinking water, and we need to fix the billing system, right? The billing system we have now does not work. People lose their houses to bills that are not their fault. And the way people get charged does not make any sense. We need common sense utilities. Also, when you pay money to ComEd, right, you are paying ComEd to operate your wires, your infrastructure. And they negotiate a contract, and we need a seat at the table when they negotiate that contract with ComEd. Next slide, please. Also, this gets a little complicated, but you know, when you pay your property taxes, and all of you pay property taxes, you may pay it as a homeowner, or it may be a part of your rent goes to property taxes, but we all pay property taxes. And some of those taxes do not go to our parks, to our schools, to our roads. They get put in this fund that gets spent on jobs that discriminate against us. And we want them to open the books, show us where that money goes. Maybe we need to stop that system. And then one last, next slide, please. So we're finalizing this. We're going to send it to every mayoral candidate. We want to hear from you about it. In particular, the next slide. We want to hear all these issues, which are most important. We want to hear what is the best way to follow. You know, we're going to send this to the candidates. If they don't fill it out, what do? Do we go see them together? Do we have a press conference? Do we have a protest where the grocery store used to be? Do we have a protest at the closed store, at the closed school? And we want your recommendations. Kevin needs you to tell people to go make a video with him. I need you to ask them to meet with me and talk about these issues so that Kevin and I as a team can find out what needs to happen and bring people in. I also want to mention briefly, I'm not going to take up time. We also do leadership and organizing trainings. We're doing one for youth on Saturday. If that interests you, let us know. And that's, I'll yield. If I'm not already way over, I'll yield whatever time's left.
Okay, no, thank you very, very much, Chris. That was great and very important. You know, as Chris mentioned, as we mentioned early on, and when we talked about the teaching when you registered, we at Working Family Solidarity are very proud to be a part of CEDR, the Citywide Equitable Development Roundtable. So CEDR, they call it CEDR, which Chris has been the main person convening starting many months ago. And we're proud to have done our part, and we still have a lot more to do. And there's a lot of other great groups involved. So if you check in with Chris, he can let you know how to get in on the next meeting. And just to quickly help you, because sometimes all these things are thrown at you, right? So Chris was going through and it said like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a questionnaire that I'm sure Chris can get to all of you. And of course, we have your email because you signed up for this. So maybe we'll see how Chris and others at CEDR want to do this, and maybe we can get that out to you. But those are essentially things, those are positions that we're asking alders just before the November elections and then in February what their position is. So when you saw the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you may have got that, but just in case you missed a word or two, those are the kinds of things that, you know, Kevin and I and many people in our organization and people from many other organizations, we come together over the months and try to distill many questions we have, but we want to develop this slate so that all together, many of us go to our alders in all these areas saying, if you're elected, do you commit to being true to these kinds of much more concrete commitments than are in the city's development draft plan. So that's what you were looking at. Kevin did a great job. Chris did a great job. We wanted to have a couple other people who are from Chicago, who are residents from various communities, couple different communities on the west, southwest, and south side of the city, to also have a few comments, really whatever they want to say coming out of Chris and Kevin's presentations. And then I'll be looking at the chat and we can integrate there. And if there's not as much in the chat as moderator, I'll come back to Kevin and Chris so we can kind of discuss and comment more. But as anyone is talking, please, any of you in the chat, like Yvonne did, please feel free, because we keep the chat, right? As soon as we save the recording, you may know this, it automatically generates a transcript of the entire chat. And again, we will never use your name and be out there like saying this person said this. We might use your comment, but saying like these are the comments people had, but we're not going to use your name. We might put an initial or something like that. But those are very powerful, and we go through them to see who said, please contact me, like Yvonne did, right? So please, as we're talking, whoever's talking, those of you who are in the chat, please put in there, you know, yes, Kevin, feel free to reach out to me or whatever, and we will do that, okay? And we'll follow up with you as well soon with an update because we have your email. So I wanted to first go to Tamika Gavin, whom I've known for a number of years. Time flies, Tamika. My God, we've known each other a few years. My goodness, yikes. But really great person. Really glad to have her as a friend, and she does great work for all kinds of really important issues with youth in the community. And we're really glad to have her to make any kind of comment or question she wants regarding what Kevin was talking about, or Chris, or anything related, but you just want to say it, not to them, but just any comment you have regarding the city's new development plan. Please go ahead, Tamika.
Well, first of all, I like to thank Kevin, Chris, and you also, Leonie, because honestly, had no idea of this city plan. And quite frankly, I'm tired of having other people make decisions for me, and I want to say those who are like me. I mean, I think this is no way, if our mayor wants to win the election, this is no way to do it. Because you're leaving some key people out. We are all voters, we vote. And just to, like I said, leave the residents out of this planning. And I liked what Chris said. How can we follow up with the other mayoral candidates on these issues? Or how can we follow up with Mayor Lightfoot on these issues? I think we should do all of them. We have to continue to educate the youth. I almost feel like we need to have these teach-ins like once a week or something like that, to get definitely more of the youth involved, those who are 18 and older who can vote and who are willing to vote. We definitely, those grocery stores that are closing down, like one of my favorite, the Food for Less on 47th and Damon. Yep, we need to have one right there. The grocery store that's in Inglewood that closed down, the Aldi's, you're like, yes, this is ridiculous. And I'm a little ticked off right now. So I'm gonna stop before a curse word fly out. And Kevin, I will be sending you, we will be talking.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thanks, Tamika. No, I was, you were getting revved up, so I was kind of like, keep going, don't stop now. Oh no, no. I'll even turn off recording if I need to, because I wanted to hear that next phrase. But no, I got you. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, Tamika, because even as you were saying, I could feel how angry you are. And even though I've been up to my neck in this for months, right? And Kevin and I, the last few weeks, I mean, we've been just not doing nothing but eating, breathing this right every day. And I'm still pissed. And when you started to get angry, I literally started to be like, yup. And it's just enraging. I don't know if one person, maybe one or two at the most that Kevin's talked to have ever heard of the plan. So it's not like, oh, every 10 people he hears one. It's like very few, if any, of the people that Kevin's talked to. And these are folks that live on the west, southwest, south side of Chicago. When he said, hey, I wonder if you could comment on this, almost no one, if not perhaps no one, has even said, I even have heard of this. Forget, I don't know what it is. Just, I have no idea this is happening. This is about to shape me and my kids' lives, right? Whether they can get on a bus, whether they can work anywhere, right? Whether they have to go an hour and a half to work somewhere to get minimum wage. So it is. I'm really glad you're angry. I often tell Tamika, that I think it's a myth that when people say, when you're 18, yeah, you're angry. But then when you get, to be 25, 30, 35, 40, you mellow out. I haven't mellowed out at all. I'm 5 times more angry today than I was 30 years ago. 20 times more. And when people tell me, oh, these youth need to calm down, don't be so angry, my response is, if you're a human being, let alone a young person of color in the United States and in Chicago, and you're not extremely pissed off, you're not alive.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening, because we're the richest nation on earth and we have to have a special plan just so you have a CTA bus. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, you guys. If you want to work with us, great. If you don't, I don't care. Please work with anyone. Your church, do it on your own. Do it. Just do it. Please, somehow let people know, like you said it so well, Tamika, that we're tired of letting other people decide what is going to happen to us and our kids. So please be involved. Marvin, please go ahead. Marvin Lopez, also great young brother who's been with us a couple times this summer, and we wanted to have any of his reactions. Please go ahead, Marvin.
First of all, thank you for having me. And like I said, like in the introduction, my name is Marvin. I'm 18. I live in Little Village. I am son of immigrant parents, and I see and I live through these times that have like struggles, not just within me, just because like economically, but like just around the whole neighborhood. Like mentioned before, potholes, that's a really huge problem. Really few resources, or not many mentioned resources, like food stamps, that's not really common around here. And then help from like the federal government that you could apply to, where sometimes they're not too broad where everyone could apply to them. and some of them can't apply to them just because of certain documents or like a bad record that would show up on them. So I think having better resources would be needed in order for like more of us to like be caring and take care of each other, should we say? Because I participated in the video of send the message to the mayor, in which in the video I had mentioned that we need to give people with low resources more opportunities in which they can take advantage of. Because my advantage that I took had was at Benito Juarez, where we had a full paid tuition scholarship, full ride for college, and I'm taking full advantage of that, because if I didn't have that, I would have been doing a part-time or maybe a full-time job, because college is really like expensive, and not many of us have graduated just because of like the few resources, like the few times that we would have to like be working a side job and going to school, like Kevin mentioned to be like earlier before when we first met. And it's an opportunity that not everyone is going to have, but it should be opportunities that everyone should end up having, because just because you have like low resources or a low income, or you started off at like a really bad start, doesn't mean that you're not important. Everyone in this is important, whether you're not like you're rich, poor, your race, your ethnicity, it does not matter, because everyone should be treated equally. Even the people in power, they don't see it because they don't live with like the low resources and incomes that we are living through, and they don't have like the same struggles that we have. So just my message in general would just be just to have more like opportunities offered to us, not just the ones with like certain race or a certain ethnicity, everyone, including like the ones from like certain neighborhoods, certain places in which they see that like the economy is going down, just help them out, maybe give them like not a loan, but just give them a whole new start, new fresh start, should we say. Just not, it's not just involving with food, but maybe just resources, houses, maybe move them to offer them a new opportunity for a new neighborhood, so they can start with like a fresh new start, so we can have more diversity. Because right now in Little Village, we're having more white folks coming in because the prices are going higher, and most people are just moving out because they either don't have enough money to keep on paying rent, or they just see, like mentioned before, a lot of stores and personal businesses are being closed down, which is like really bad because COVID hit us really bad, and some of us are still like fully recuperated out of like this whole thing that happened. So I think just having a fresh new start just for one person would be really important, because maybe one person is all it takes to make a huge change.
Thanks a lot, Marvin. Appreciate it very much. So I wanted to, I'll add this in, but then also I want to come back to Kevin and Chris. You know, you heard a few things that Tamika had said, that, you know, she's an evolved person, right? And she hadn't heard that there was a city plan going on, and she's tired of what's happened for so long. Other people, usually wealthier, more powerful people, making decisions for the rest of us. Marvin talking about, you know, just the gentrification and all these things happening and the lack of resources. So I want to take that back. I'll go back with you, Kevin, because you started, and then I'll just add in one thing that Yvonne had been talking about. I know I saw you answered in the chat, Kevin, but she had been saying it's also important for people to vote and so on. So I want to come back to you, Kevin, and then Chris as well, with anything now, having heard Tamika and Marvin, and just if that kind of spurs you to have any other comment about, you know, just anything you're thinking about, or the ways we need to come together, or just the importance of anything they said. So I'm going to come back, I guess, especially Kevin, to you, because you've been talking to so many people and sort of verifying maybe that you're not hearing people that have heard much about this. But any other thing you wanted to react to, Tamika and Marvin's comments, Kevin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Leone. Yeah, I've been responding to a lot of the stuff in the chat, as well as listening to Tamika and Marvin. And I really just want to piggyback behind that, which is these things start at our polls. Exactly like Yvonne said. Me as being a young adult, I'm not just recently, but 2-3 years ago, I just started understanding the severity of the polls and voting, and how important it is for us to read up and knowledge ourselves on the new alders that are running for campaigns in these campaigns, as well as all the way up to our mayoral election. That hand in hand directs with a lot of the things that we fight in our city, as well as a lot of our personal issues that each one of us have to go through in some way, shape, or form every single day. So I completely agree with Yvonne there, where I'm a firm believer in it starts at the polls. No, politics does not fix everything. I am also a firm believer in that, because politics, as we all know, is very, very dicey game as well. So it does not fix everything, but that voting, as well as coming to, like I said, teach-ins, meetings, organizational rallies, and etc. like this, being a part of the agenda and campaigns, not just specifically from Working Family Solidarity, even though, like I said, we would love for each and every one of you that are here today to reach out to us for the message to the mayor clips, as well as just to reach out in general, maybe to join our email news weekletter, or just anything, just to have contact information. You never may know when the day may come when we have a conversation to have. But it's very important for us to be reaching out and pushing these agendas and campaigns like this and getting our voices heard, because like Tamika said, I'm 23 years old, and I'm tired of it already. I've only been on this earth a short time. About half the time is Leone, maybe half the time is Chris, half the time is a few people on this call. My mother's on this call, half the time is her. So I've been on this earth half the time is a lot of people, but nonetheless, I'm pissed. I'm upset. I'm angry that our youth, as well as our elderly, as well as just our everyday citizens, continuously go without getting their voices heard. And it's frustrating, it's extremely frustrating. I understand how Tamika said, you can get upset and maybe slip a cuss word, because sometimes when me and Leone talking, it happens, because we get very frustrated when we have personal conversations about these things, because, this is affecting our kids, our next generation. This is affecting the generations we already have. This is affecting all of us in some way, shape, or form. So it's important. I don't want to take up too much more time, because I would love for anyone in the chat to be able to say any more questions they have for us to be able to answer, as well as any panelists that have any more questions for us specifically, either about the plan or just in general. So I definitely want to get ready to give it over to Chris, but I want to end by saying, one, please reach out to us. Like I said, it starts there. It starts at the polls. It starts by working with organizations that are fighting tirelessly. I'm up every day, 7 a.m. I don't go to sleep until almost midnight. So when I say we up every single day, tirelessly fighting and pushing this agenda of equitable jobs, equitable housing, of pushing the agenda of better quality schooling, more infrastructure building in our communities that's meant for our community members that are already here, not the new ones that they want to bring in to replace us. So I urge you all to please contact me. I'll drop my contact information again. Please email me. Please call or text me. I can come anywhere you need me to come throughout the city. Let's chat. Let's have a talk. Let's maybe get a video. Like I said, if you don't feel comfortable with video, let's get audio. and let's make a change. Let's be the change that we want to see. It starts with us, one at a time. So appreciate you all again. And I'm going to give the floor to Leone and then back to Chris, I'm assuming.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kevin. Geez, I mean, just very well said. You and I, of course, work together and talk all the time, but I'm still struck by a lot of the great descriptions you have. Yeah, tired of people not having a voice, right? And it's, I mean, how long? How many generations? We're not, it feels like we thought heroic people that we all know, right? That some are well known, some each of us know, but maybe they're not really known, but they're like our personal heroes that aren't here anymore. Look at what they did, right? And we're still dealing with the exact same thing. So it's really a process. I think it reminds us that it's a process. It's not a change is not a moment. It's a process. It never really stops, right? Like I think my kids will be doing this when I'm gone. I'm sure they will, unfortunately, because there's always going to be some rich, nasty folks that, that bully when you're in like kindergarten and there's 20 cookies, 20 kids, but the bully took 10 of them. That's just what we got in this society, man. There's bullies that take most of those cookies. But they've legalized all the system, right? So they get the tax breaks and offshore accounts and they do stuff. So it's technically legal and it's natural market forces. So why should Kevin complain when he said that we're being forced out of our communities? Because it's quote unquote legal. You, like Chris said, the property taxes go up, we're pushed out. Property taxes don't go up because God says so, right? It's not the 11th commandment. Human beings decide to say that where Kevin lives now has to cost him twice as much. There's no natural force that says that. We've decided as a society that it's okay to tell Kevin he has to now pay 1,000 instead of 500 a month just because he has to. No, he doesn't. We make those rules. We can change the rules, right? But we got to get our stuff together, especially Blacks and Latinx people. We're the majority in the city. We're getting smaller because they're gentrifying us out. We're still the majority. We're almost half the population of the United States, but we're not united. And when we're not united, it doesn't really matter how many of us there are. We can't have power if we don't find a way to work together so we support each other, right? So that's something we're big on. We'll keep all working together. We don't think we figured that out. We just invite everyone to work on that together, right? Like, let's see each other as people producing riches for a small, tiny, wealthy class, right? And if we see ourselves like that, yeah, we have different skin colors, we speak different languages, lots of differences. But the main thing is we produce and do things no one else will do, right? And that's a power, but we just haven't figured out how to use that. But we're going to together keep going and figure this out. Chris, Kevin was right. I wanted to come back to you after you heard from Tamika, Marvin. I had one or two little things to say. Kevin had something to say. What are you thinking of, Chris?
I would just like to elaborate on what Ms. Gavin said. This was hidden in plain sight. This was set up so they could say, oh, we had a website, we had this meeting, this meeting, this meeting, and the people didn't come, right? It wasn't really, we had some pretty good meetings on the Southeast side, but we had to run up the down escalator, right, to have those. And really it's the setup that like a paper trail that we talked about it, but not a real intent for a wide audience to talk about it. And a lot of things are like that. A lot of like some, there's some zoning advisory committees that some aldermen do. And that alderman really is trying to get all the different people that like are the taste makers of the ward to talk about each project, right? But there's a lot more aldermen that they have it to have it so that they have an excuse for what they do. Like I was on the 46th Ward Zoning Committee when we voted against the Weiss Hospital project. And then Kappelman went behind the scenes and pushed people to change their vote and did what he was going to do anyways.
I'll add something concrete to that, and others know more than I do about like the history of this, although I've been following it. But thinking of what you just said, Chris, the processes, and I know we're not necessarily telling many of you new things. Unfortunately, you're kind of going, tell me about it. So let's you see Kevin continues to put his email and his telephone in there. Please follow up with them. We'll follow up with you. We'll keep bugging you. Please, at any moment, or if you know people that want to talk, like Kevin had mentioned, we do the video clips. They're 30 to 60 seconds. Sometimes he'll interview some people a little more. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to do that. One thing Kevin is also doing is just doing the audio so that he can just hear the stories. We could maybe write them down. We don't have to use your name, or we can, or use your first name, or whatever you want to do. Some people want to say their name and want to be on camera and say, and they got something to say. And if you want to say something different, you can do that too. And it's really important to have that feedback. One thing I'm thinking of, Chris, is when you said this, they set up these processes to act like we had input, and then they often make a decision that, even by their own admission, goes against the majority of the input they've had. And I'm not going to say too much about this. I urge you all to think a little bit about it. But this is really important. You all remember Cabrini Green, right? And that's a historically significant near West Side housing development, right? Because early on, it was touted as being, sort of decades ago, right? It's this new model of public housing. It's going to really help a lot of people of color, especially Black folks, to stay in the city and so on. Then, of course, the narrative changed, and it's like, well, the war on drugs and, and this and that. We got to move these folks out of here. And so that was demolished with, just like Robert Taylor homes, right? And I don't know how much you know about Robert Taylor. Those were the largest public housing developments in the world. Like Russia, I lived in Russia at a time. They got these, post-Soviet, post-World War II, they had these giant, hundreds of thousands of people, right, putting up these giant apartment buildings all over the Soviet Union because they had nowhere to live. They lost 20 million people, right, to the Nazis. Yeah, the Soviets defeated Hitler. We didn't. Read your history books. We came along and did some mopping up operations. Soviet Union lost 10% of their entire population, 20 million people. Stop Hitler with pitchforks. Anyway, read about that just to make sure we know what history we're really learning about folks in other places. Here, the Cabrini Greens were torn down, like Robert Taylor, right? Folks were told, it'll take us a year or two, hang out, we'll get you back over here with these other things. Then the mayor came in and said, you know what? I want the Chicago Fire soccer team to actually have that area. Although we promised it would be for folks from Cabrini Green to come back to. Oh, well, that could take a few years. In the meantime, let's have the Chicago Fire pay the city a bunch of money, and we're going to have the soccer team practice. Chris has been involved. Many of us have been involved. Many people who are not on this call have been very great fighters. It looked like we had defeated it. They were shamed into admitting that really was sucked. They had a rare defeat for the mayor in a committee of alders who actually bucked her and said, no, we're not okay in this. This is a disgrace. She, behind the scenes, put pressure on people like she does. She will literally, and she's not the first mayor, of course, they've all done it. But she literally talks to alders and says, you know what? You vote for this, you don't get money. So I'm tired of asking. I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of discussing. I'm just going to tell you now straight up. You vote against me, and this is what happened. Miraculously, a week later, this same committee came back and said, well, we changed our vote. The Chicago Fire soccer team can go ahead now and use all that acres that was promised by the city, promised to go back to the African-American folks who had been at Cabrini Green, and they were supposed to be able to live there again. And now they're not. And that is what we're talking about, even in a process where the majority of people told them they're wrong, right? They said, we want to hear from you. And everyone said, well, you're wrong. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. And then the mayor went behind, pressured those same people to come back and say, now we changed our vote. So this is what we're dealing with. I know a lot of you realize this. It's just a recent example. Please learn a little bit more about that situation with the Chicago Fire on the near West Side. We may still be able to stop it. But with that happening literally now, like in the last week or 10 days, imagine now they're saying they want our input. How are we supposed to take that? I mean, do you feel like they're actually listening? I don't. And I'm tired of it, like Tamika said. We do have a few more minutes. I want to say this. Claudia put in the chat, we did not know about the plan for the city. I live in Pilsen, and I feel very unhappy that the city does not really include the people on those decisions. They should not go forward with a plan because the community has not, doesn't have a voice on that plan. We need to have better jobs, affordable housing. We also need the right to have green spaces. Our communities deserve to be treated with respect, and we need to, but we need to be united and organized to get it. So, on the theme of unity, on whatever type of unity, as we close out, I want to go to Tamika for any last comment, and then to Marvin for any last comment. You got, sorry, you won't have a lot of time, maybe about a minute or two at the most. Tamika, then Marvin, and then we'll go to Kevin and Chris, and we'll close it out. But Tamika, maybe a little bit on the theme of unity, disunity, as we close out.
So I lost my mom to COVID on April 30th, 2020. And as my sister was fighting for her life, my mom was dying on the ventilator. And it just makes me go back to lives were lost because of, you know, the lying and the underhandedness and the the planning without the people who actually matter. And I'm wondering what's going to be the result of this. You know, this plan. Yes, we definitely have to stick together. But we actually have to stop putting people in who is doing the lying and underhandedness, and you know, because that's no way to treat people. I'm sorry, this is just not right. And I'm like really frustrated right now about because I feel that every time we turn around and we're trying to move forward and we're trying to live, pay taxes, work, make sure our families have, it's something like this that is in our way. So
Thanks a lot, Tamika. Yeah, I remember that time. And I remember it's bringing a couple tears to my eyes because I remember when you and I were on the phone. We were on the phone, April, maybe 2020, early April. And we were talking and you literally said, Leone, I'm starting to feel like I'm losing my sense of taste. We were on the phone and my heart stopped. And I was just like, and you were like, I'm starting to feel like I might be getting a fever. It was the early stages of COVID. We didn't know what the hell it was. And I started sweating, you know, and you're so right about who knew what and why didn't we in our communities get help when we needed it, right? And we had a phrase during COVID. I mean, we're still living with it, right? But during its worst ravaging times, that COVID didn't create the social inequality we're seeing, but it helped expose it. You know, to honor your mom, Tamika, I mean, we all got to try to honor your mom and Yvonne's father. I remember what you told me too, Yvonne, back at that time, but we're not going to let those people pass away in vain, right? We can't. How can we? How can we look at our kids and have any pride? Because they're going to inherit a really messed up world. And I don't know how we can let that happen. If you don't have kids yet, you might one day, and it doesn't matter if you ever have kids, right? But your family members will feel this. So let's do it for them. The ones who aren't here and the ones who are still here. Let's take it back to you, Marvin, and then we'll end with Kevin and Chris. Marvin, any last thoughts?
Yeah, just like to add a little bit, because the message about like the new change about the new mayor thing plan, I did not hear about it until Kevin had mentioned it to me. And I was actually surprised because it's like a huge change that's gonna happen like in our community and to our people. It's gonna affect our people. And I didn't even hear about it. So it's like really frustrating because it's like a huge change. It's not something just like a little paper that's just gonna be signed and it's just gonna not really affect anybody. It's gonna affect everybody that's living around here. And it's even gonna be affecting me, in which the case that I did not know about the tree or the tree that was gonna go on, it just bothers me because we had no voice input, we had no suggestion input, we had like no recommendations, we had no suggestions to put into this plan. And it's just really bothering because it's like ideas that people in power decided to put on. So should we say, so they could try to manipulate us into like the way that they want to treat us. And it's not the way that we want to be living, because there's a lot of things that could be money could be put in order to be used in better ways, like in potholes that was mentioned before. That can be a lot of money invested into it, and it's just going to be really, it's going to look the streets nicer. And it's also going to like it's also going to have less problems for like people who drive always and will always have to like curve around, or like if the vehicles damaged are because of these potholes, they have to report it, they have to go through this long process which like nobody wants to go through. Same thing with like grocery stores being closed, a little personal stores too, due to COVID. Less money, small businesses, less money would be coming in and out, and these shops would have to be closed. It's just really frustrating because this plan was never like mentioned to me until like recently. And it's like change needs to be done because they're not the ones that are going to be living here. It's just kind of frustrating to me.
Thanks a lot, Marvin. That's what we've been hearing. And that's one reason some bunch of months ago we got so involved, because we knew that a lot of people hadn't heard, but when it became almost no one had heard of it, it felt like, nah, man, we can't let this go, right? Like we gotta try to support people. Let's go back for any final thought or comment, please, to Kevin, and then we'll come to you next, Chris. Kevin, please go ahead.
I was like, Chris, you had unmuted yourself. Did you want to go first? Okay. I'll be real quick because I know we end at 7:30. We don't want to hold people up past the time that we said. So just to reiterate, once again, you can contact me, Chris, Leone, Chris specifically with ASC and the questionnaire that they're doing for their mail campaign as well. Me specifically for the video project and the message to the campaign, and then just Leone, Tamika, or Marvin, or any one of us to be able to get any more information that you may need to find out more details about all of our campaigns and all of our organizations. Once again, we dropped our contact information in the chat. Please, English or Spanish, we're looking for any type of support and any type of message that you guys are ready to share. So I want to be very brief. Thank you so much for coming to our teach-in once again with Working Family Solidarity about our message to the mayor plan, as well as the city's new development plan. And we hope to see most of you, if not all of you, again at our next one.
So I just want to say, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know my uncle had a disability. I lost him. And, you know, they really showed who they cared about by who they made a plan to save during COVID. And other folks got left behind. And now they're doing it again. And we need to make and carry out our plan of how we're going to save people that are left behind. And that needs to also be a requirements list, like a checklist. It's like nobody can be mayor of Chicago unless you take care of these things. And we might not agree on all of them, but we need to press the ones we agree about and press them strong and press them so everybody's talking about it every day of this whole cycle. So thanks for having me.
Well said, Chris. I want to say that Claudia put in the chat as we finish here, and we will finish in just one moment. She put it in Spanish. I guess I will say it in English because maybe some of the other people could read it in Spanish, but it says in Pilsen, in the neighborhood, the property taxes are very high, super high. And in our community, we don't, but the problem is in our community, we don't have access to good jobs or decent affordable housing. We don't have access to green spaces. So we can't, it's hard to fight it. And I always ask myself and wonder, what happens? What do people do with all this money that's collected from our property taxes? What's happening with that money? So that was something that she had to say. And let's see. Oh, I can read it in Spanish. Okay. So thanks, Carol. So I'll read what Esmeralda said. We're going to end in a minute, but I want to read these last couple of comments. I don't know if we can talk about them, but they're really great comments that we'll keep in the chat because it'll be generated for us, but for others to remember. Esmeralda says, I'll say it in Spanish, one of our great members who's done so much in Back of the Yards for justice. Ojalá y el plan fuera posible.
I hope if only the plan was possible equally, not just for certain races.
And well, Chris translated his own. Thank you, Chris. So I'll just call attention here. You can read it in either language, but Chris said they use those taxes to enforce segregation and racism. And it's always weird, right? Like 1984, the book, when sometimes we all say things that we all know aren't really true, but we agree that to say them. And then when we just say the truth, it's really refreshing and it feels weird. So like Chris said, they use them to enforce segregation and racism. Oh my God, what an extreme statement. And until you go, yeah, that's exactly what they use them for, right? I mean, we're not trying to be mean. It's just, we have eyes, we feel. That's exactly what they're used for. They're going to drive. I live in Pilsen. We'll see how much longer we live here. But yeah, we've had so many, I've lived here 13 and a half years. So many friends of mine have left. It's ridiculous. And their sin is waking up early in the morning and working all day as hard as they can, like two adults in a family, and they can't stay here. That's BS. Just like Bronzeville, just like everywhere else, right? So you all know what we're getting at, but I'm really appreciative. I say this every time. I really mean it. I know that many people who are in the attendees here today, you could have run this teach-in. You could have hosted terrific things. And I know many of you are doing incredible things in your community, sometimes through an organization, sometimes through your own informal network of schools and churches and friends. And God bless you. You're the heroes that no one knows your name, but we know your name. I know everyone's name on that chat. I know everyone's name. And you guys are the ones that inspire me to get up and keep doing this. So I really thank you. We know your name. The wealthy people that write the history books, they don't want to put you in there, but you're in our books and we know who you are and we really appreciate you. You're the people Kevin wants to talk to. You're the people Chris wants to talk to. So reach out to us at any time. We'll let you know about our next teach-in. And thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you so much to Somos Sur. We are the South, to Eva Cardenas, to Carol Tatiana for interpreting. Thank you to Kevin Johnson. Thank you to Chris White. Thank you to Tamika Gavin. And thank you very much to Marvin Lopez and to all the rest of you who joined us. Have a great, great evening.